Hippity, hey! How did I get in here? I do not know. They pushed me in here. They gave me a bunch of old magazines. This is one of them. And they said to face forward and to speak into this camera and to show and tell these old magazines. And then get this. They said that I could choose one magazine, and whatever magazine I chose, I would be able to go back in time to the date that it was published. And I'm really weirded out because one second I was at my house, and the next second I know I'm here. And I feel like I can't leave. And I'm definitely going to show and tell these old magazines now, but I am scared of time machines. I just feel like I'm being forced to somehow by some kind of force that I don't understand. So, here goes. 1991. In the summer of I could go back to 1991. This has got to be a joke. That does not look like a joke behind me, though. I don't even know what I'm speaking to or who I'm speaking to or what this is. But here we go. Mad Computer Virus Edition. That's interesting. Summer 1991. It says our price, $3.50. And then it says cheap right afterwards. 96 pages of previous glitches. So, this is back when computers were fairly newer. There's some kind of cartoon. I really wonder what this is all about. It would be really wild to go back to the summer of 1991. I was in preschool. Let me flip through some random pages and show you some of this magazine, like I was told. There's a lot of cartoons. I can just put some of them up to the camera. Yeah, all cartoons. That one's pretty crazy. Attention hackers. Crash your systems now. Matt's computer section is online. I know this was a really popular magazine in the 90s, I know that. Just lots of comics in this one. It says Super Special Summer. I wonder if this camera that they told me to speak to is hooked up to the internet. I really don't know. They gave me this sweatshirt too. Pretty sure this is from the 90s. So, I would fit right back in if I went to the summer of 1991. And I would have a magazine that I could walk around with. So I really would fit right in. I wouldn't have a cell phone. There were no cell phones. Not like today. This is a funny one. And then the back. That's one magazine. This one is from 1968. It says, to the moon. So I could go back to 1968. There's a bunch of astronauts on the front. And then a cigarette ad on the back. It says, if you could put ounce charcoal filter on your cigarette, you'd have a better cigarette. And then they're zipping it on. That's why us Tarryton smokers would rather fight than switch. I wondered why he had a black eye. I'll open to some random pages. This is an ad that is pretty interesting from General Telephone and Electronics. It says, "We own Sylvania TV. We're worried. We're worried about some of the shows that we see on our set. It's a crazy photo. This is a typewriter ad. I'll read that real quick. CBS bought it. DuPont bought it. TWA bought it. Raytheon bought it. American Can bought it. Lockheed bought it. Philco Ford bought it. Gulf Oil bought it. And a dozen billion-dollar banks bought it. This typewriter. The Remington 25 Electric. Give our man just 30 minutes. You'll see features found on no other typewriter. It didn't connect to the internet for sure. Features that convinced some of America's biggest companies. Call. We're in the phone book. Yeah, this is from 1968. Typewriters were popular, and phone books were in everybody's kitchen drawer. This is a car ad. Or no, a radio ad. A man has a right to the news as soon as he gets behind the wheel. Let's kind of go. I'm going to open some random pages. This is for a fluorescent light bulb. It says, this 8-foot fluorescent is 2 feet longer than a 7-foot basketball player. That's the perfect ad for a basketball player. Let's see what else is inside of this here. A lot of pictures that are part of war articles. Lots of writing in this one. The Seuss and the Suit. Disputed Doll by Seuss. This says, the black-mailing woodpecker, the taper-tailed dingo, the light-cored duck, the time-telling goldfish, the hypnotized airedale, and the neglected pheasant dunpod. These imaginatively zany cartoon characters could belong only to the peerless Dr. Seuss. Or could they? Dr. Seuss, whose full name is Theodore Seuss Geisel, created this children's zoo all right. But last week, Judge William Hurlins, in Federal District Court in New York, ruled that Dr. Seuss had signed away all rights to them and thus dismissed Dr. Seuss's suit to stop the sale of a line of plastic dolls based on his characters. In the autumn of 1932, Dr. Seuss drew a series of cartoon animals for Liberty magazine. The Family Weekly, which died in 1950, paid Dr. Seuss $300 a page for the complete rights to the cartoons. When the magazine collapsed, Lorraine Lester, a Broadway producer who had been consulting the magazine on possible motion pictures that might be made from Liberty material, bought out the 17,000 copyrights the magazine owned for an undisclosed sum and formed the Liberty Corporation. Dr. Seuss filed suit to stop the sale of the dolls, which he described as being tasteless and unattractive, so he didn't like the dolls. He argued, among other things, that his contract with Liberty did not give the holder of the copyright the right to turn a two-dimensional character into a three-dimensional doll. That's interesting. So, he's talking about Dr. Seuss in 1968 in a dispute that he has with the cartoon. Here's some art. There's not a lot of pictures in this one. CBS Radio does a lot of ads in this one. It says, for Christmas, we're giving you Arthur Godfrey 2 more days a week. I'm sure a lot of people were really happy to unwrap him. I wonder what I'd be going back to if I went back in time to December 30th, 1968. I didn't see anything about the moon on that one. I'll try real quick to see if they, I don't know, the people that pushed me in here, if they want me to do this a certain way or what, but I don't see anything about the moon articles. Maybe on page 14. This is the way you had to look back then. Was at the start of the magazine. And then it would tell you what else is in there. That's all that was in here about the mission. It's pretty cool though. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to the 1960s though. This is from July 1966. Dell Sports, Tony Oliva, baseball's next great superstar. 400 players, photos, digests, lifetime records. So a lot of pictures from 1966. It's black and white when you open it. I gotta be really, really, really careful with this. I don't know what they're gonna do if I break these. On the back of this, it says, "Don't be half a man. Let me show you how I can make you a real He-Man from head to toe in just 15 minutes a day." And then it shows this gentleman with some leopard print underwear. One of a kind. 1966. I'm gonna be really careful with this. The spider catches on. The pictures in this one are pretty cool. It has lots of player stats inside of it. Lots of cool pictures. This is what it looks like for the most part. I wonder what it's like in July of 1966. I don't think I'm dressed for that. pushed me in here. I couldn't really get a good look at him. I'm still really confused what's going on. But if that time machine powers up, I may try to make a run for it. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to choose a year. 1969, 1970 basketball. If I could go play some basketball, that wouldn't be the worst thing, maybe. College preview, over 200 top teams. UCLA, end of a dynasty. An ad for the Basketball Weekly. This is how they advertised then. On the back of this one is another ad for more magazines. So this was a basketball player in 1969, 1970. One of them. Some cool pictures. It feels crazy holding these magazines. Where have they been all this time, really? Is what I'm wondering. They're all so different. And they just threw me in here. Somehow I had a bunch of these old magazines. It's so confusing. But if I went back in time with a magazine, I would fit in. If this was hooked up to the internet, whatever I'm talking to, I would ask and I would see if they would go and which year they would choose. Here's a color photo. Lots of names and player stats. Coach pro basketball in your own home. All pro teams come alive on your tabletop. That's cool. You put it on your tabletop and you can. It's like the course. The basketball court is probably laid out. That's pretty cool. Then it has an ad for a delicious, zestful drink that puts the end to the skinny body. And Arnold Schwarzenegger himself is in this one. That's pretty cool. I put 2 full inches on my arms, he says. 1969, 1970, Arnold Schwarzenegger was pretty popular. Joel Weider is in this ad too. It mentions him. Another bodybuilding legend. So if I went back to that time, I could see Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is from May 1971. Science magazine, it looks like. Popular Mechanics. Indy 500. First big one for racing's Triple Crown. It says gas, patio, grill, roller coaster, bookshelf table. And then for Evan Root boats on the back, there's an advertisement. This one's pretty thick. I think I might want to go back to 1971. It looks pretty cool already. Some tool how-to advertisements. Do-it-yourself stuff. It's kind of like the YouTube of yesteryear from 1971 in May. Who thought I'd have so much money without going to college? Cleveland Institute of Electronics ad. But something that would get you 2 free books that was never used. Paint ads, bodybuilding ad, they're real small. A little knife ad, pocket knife. Everything in here is pretty small, but there's a lot of ads. A Ford ad. Cool cigarettes. Products to make your job look professional. I wonder who touched this magazine in the 1970s. If I go back, am I gonna meet them? Dutch Boy Paint. Well, I hope that I gave you an idea. I hope I did what they wanted me to do well enough. If I had to choose a year, I think I would choose 1970s. But I'm not really sure. These are all the magazines, so I guess now I just have to wait and see what happens.